Thank you for tuning in. This is the remote learning module number 2 from Michael Prentice. Today we will be discussing the effectiveness of learning in student-led investment funds. This is the second remote learning module for teaching practicum and finance taught by Dr. Emmett Dulaney at Anderson University. An introduction to this problem. I am the program coordinator for the finance and financial planning programs at Freed-Hardeman University in Henderson, Tennessee. And a privilege with this job duty is to be a mentor for the student-led investment fund on campus. This is known as the Hatchet Investment Fund. As we can see here, it is a $1 million student-managed investment fund that enables students to serve as analysts and portfolio manager for a real stock portfolio. This gives students the opportunity to research, screen, and pick stocks. But in my time on the team, I really was wanting to answer the question, is the learning that is achieved truly more effective than it is in the classroom setting of traditional classes? Um, so with this being said, I'd like to dive into this question with a literature review, show some values and challenges, a proposed methodology, and um, and some expected results, as well as areas for further evaluation. To provide some history of the Hatchet investment team, it began in 2007 when Jim Clayton, who is the co-founder of Clayton Homes and the chairman of Clayton Bank Corp at the time, provided the initial investment mentorship. The Clayton investment team operated until 2019 when the team transferred briefly to the First Bank investment team, and then the Freed-Hardeman investment team. Then Rob and Rachel Hatchett had the desire to mentor future business leaders in 2022, and the team was born as the Hatchett investment team. Rob and Rachel Hatchett have donated $1 million of their own money for the students to manage, and they've done really well so far. And the owners of the fund have been very happy uh, with their achievement in the field of managing their portfolio and their funds. The learning objectives and mission of the Hatch investment team are as follows. First, we want the students to provide daily portfolio monitoring. We also want the students to gain knowledge of the current investment environment and the financial services industry. We also want them to understand financial reporting. We want them to implement fundamental and technical analysis. We'll talk more about what the difference between those two are here in a minute. But just to provide a brief overview, fundamental analysis is going to be where we look at financial statements, do ratio analysis with those financial statements. Technical analysis is where we will generally use charts and put indicators on those charts, such as moving averages, Bollinger Bands. You can look at the RSI, things of that nature. Both very different, but very useful skills to have in the monitoring and management of an investment portfolio. And then lastly, we want the students to utilize effective presentation skills. Every semester, the fund will present to a board of 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 alumni at Freed-Hardeman University who have either been on the team or been heavily involved with the team for a number of years, as well as Mr. Hatchett, and they will defend their decisions to buy, sell, or hold a stock in the portfolio, and they will answer any questions that will come up from the board of advisors. Next, I'd like to take a brief look at the Student Managed Investment Fund Consortium. First, I'd like to just note what it is. It's a community of colleges and university with a shared vision of student success and leadership in the investment management. Their mission is to provide a forum among member institutions to share student managed investment fund best practices in investment management and organization administration. The reason we bring this up is because most of the research that has been done has been affiliated with the Student Managed Investment Fund Consortium. The majority of this research has been done based off of the members of this consortium. So I believe it's very important that we include some information about them, about this consortium, in order to provide a broadened perspective about student managed investment funds. Now we talk about the values of student managed investment fund. Here we're going to see several notes by Call as well as Lynn, but let's start out with some of the values that Call notes. Call notes the development of interpersonal skills such as teamwork, leadership, negotiation, and appreciation of cultural diversity through working in diverse teams to develop and present an investment portfolio. Now, with the Hatchet investment team, we take applications every semester to be on the team. It's a highly selective process, but we want a diverse group of individuals who are able to uh, readily defend their decisions. We take males and females of all different cultural backgrounds onto the team because we believe that the teamwork that is going to be achieved through this mix of students is going to be much higher than if we were to just select white males. Call also notes that team frequently consists of both sexes, several races, and several countries of origin. Members of the team often have very different and strongly held views on such topic as market efficiency, fundamental and technical analysis, and international diversification. Now, uh, as was noted, we do try to diversify the team as much as we can so that we can provide broadened perspectives on these different fundamental tools. Just because no two people are going to be the same, and in this kind of environment, there is no right answer. So we want to make sure that we're providing as many perspectives as possible so that a team will be able to uh, choose the correct the best response, not the correct, but the best response possible through collaboration. Call further notes that the students' analytical skills are challenged and developed in several ways. The basic problem of constructing an investment portfolio in the real world is a very complex form problem requiring extensive data analysis, which is exactly what we on the Hatchet investment team try to put our students through. There, we have a very stringent process in place for what we want students to achieve in their time on the team. And I believe Call does a very good job at noting, really kind of summarizing what we on the Hatchet investment team do. Lynn notes that this allows students to move away from traditional chalk and talk format to the experiential learning or learning by doing. Now, learning by doing, as we have seen as practitioners in academia, has been much more effective uh and trial by fire or trial by doing, learning by doing has been a very effective tool in the arena of academia because it helps our students understand that you're not going to be sitting in lectures and being paid for that. You're going to be active. You're going to be learning as you go. That you will not know everything that you need to know when you start a job. You will still have to learn, and the best way to do that learning is going to be by doing. Call further notes that students must select from more than 10,000 different stock, bond, and money market and investment company investments for the funds. In the end, they will probably select about one out of every 1,000 potential investment vehicles. Now, in the Hatchet investment team, we actually only use stocks as our investment vehicles. We will only allow stocks with generally a some small cap, mostly mid cap, and large cap we want to utilize in our fund that has been outlined by our fund agreement that has been drawn up by Mr. and Mrs. Hatchett. But this call makes a very important note. Students are going to have to screen these stocks. By what I mean by screening is you start with thousands of stocks. Then what you're going to do is you're going to narrow that list down through what you think will best fit uh, in in the student developed model that our students use and implement. Uh, you've got to make sure to screen the right way to make sure that you are actually developing the correct judgment calls as to what will fit in the model, because you can't just plug 10,000 stocks into a model. There's no way that you would ever be able to come to a conclusion. Call further notes that there is an integration across functional areas in the College of Business. We try to implement in our college. We have several different majors: accounting, finance, management, marketing. Um, we try, and business analytics. We try to actually integrate all of these into the functionality of the investment team, and that's one of the values that that a student managed investment fund will actually provide. Call further notes that a student managed investment fund can provide the framework for a wide range of other valuable educational experiences and outcomes. Um, and then Lawrence notes that the benefits of providing students with greater practical experience and technical skills in finance are widely recognized in the job market. We have alumni that come back, myself included, who actually mentioned that their time on the team has come up in most job interviews that they've had, even those that they've been 10 years out of college, and this conversation still comes up just because it's very unique, it's very practical, and it's exposing our students to very analytical procedures and experiences. There are some challenges of student managed funds. Lynn notes the problem of who owns the fund and its performance, who's responsible for the terms for the returns, who has the fiduciary duty. Lynn further notes the kind of the remedy of this question in saying that the Uniform Prudent Management of Institutional Funds Act applies when a student managed investment fund is part of the university endowment. The Investment Advisor Act of 1940 governs when a student managed investment fund is funded with a private source with an ownership claim. Lynn is going to further note that if a student managed investment fund is funded through a direct gift, it should meet all specific requirements established by the donor, regardless of whether the student managed investment fund is set up as a scheduled class or an extracurricular activity. We have seen this to be actually pretty fundamental in the operation of the Hatchet Investment Fund. We operate under an agreement that is going to really drive the decisions that are made on the fund. We have to meet certain objectives within that agreement. We have to abide by certain rules within that agreement. For example, the fund cannot invest in anything that the wording I believe is going to be that directly violates Christian values, and sometimes that's not always very cut and dry. It may be that one company does something and the team has to decide, does this meet our client's objectives of not directly violating Christian values. Next is finding the right talent. Lynn is going to further note that recruiting high quality finance majors is cited as one of the major challenges of student managed investment funds, and that's very true. Especially with a smaller university, we have a smaller pool of applicants, and we want to find good talent that is going to we want to find the best talent that we can, but they may not always be finance majors, but we do want them to be contained to the College of Business. But finding that good talent can be, very very complicated. There are several tools we look at in the application process that will determine if someone would be a good fit. And then making sure the objectives are being met. The remedies to making sure that objectives are being met include mandatory presentation to outside professionals. The student fund experience should be at least a year long, and this maximizes access to professional alumni as guest speakers and attending conferences and or visiting financial markets, as noted by Kleinbell and Murphy. The Hatchet investment team actually implements most of these. Students are required to be on the team for a year, 2 consecutive semesters. They are required to present their findings and their decisions to a board of an advisory board. And we have guest speakers as often as we can that are, professionals in the financial services industry. Okay, now let's move to the methodology in which I have decided that I would use in order to measure the effective learning of the student managed investment fund. There we will have an entrance exam and an exit exam. This is aimed at assessing both qualitative and quantitative functions, aimed at assessing how well learning objectives have been emphasized. The way we will see if learning is effective is that a successful score on an exit exam of 80% or a moving scale of 60% improvement will determine the effectiveness of the learning of the students. excuse me. The expected results is that the exam would show significant improvement from entrance to exit, as the first semester is spent implementing processes, and the second semester on the student managed investment fund is spent refining the craft of portfolio management. So exam scores should exceed the 80% success mark as students become more familiar with the processes and then have a better ability to be a good portfolio manager. Some issues for future study would be that some questions would be: should a student managed investment fund be judged on their performance with the benchmark index instead of an exam? So, should a student managed fund should the effectiveness of learning be uh, judged more so on whether or not their fund beat their chosen index, or should it be with an exam? Next, are students able to consistently outperform the market, thus demonstrating the ability to the fund to be successful? This kind of ties in with that first question, but if they can consistently outperform their index, whether that be in different sectors or the index as a whole, should that be a better uh, performance indicator of the effectiveness of learning? And then lastly, is it possible for other performance evaluations to better capture the quantification of the effectiveness of learning outcomes? Are there other available tools out there to measure the effectiveness of this learning? So these are the issues for future study, and these will be my works cited for this presentation. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate your attention.